Expanding consciousness is different from getting high. The getting high is like disconnecting it from consciousness, raising of consciousness. Like, so raising means like you're going higher in your consciousness. But this getting high is a different, like you're going on a trip, like you're tripping. If people consider me dangerous and crazy, it's because I'm a non-conformist. So I don't conform, I can't conform. So it's not like a choice. I would accept the fact that I'm dangerous and crazy based on the standards that ones have accepted as their values. I really am not governed by them. I'm not out there breaking any laws because there's no police after me or, jail. But the people that are after me or feel negatively or strongly about me are because I challenge the status quo. Even in the Rastafari community, I'm considered a challenge. So within a community that's challenging the system, I myself am a challenge to that community in terms of demanding or saying that, oh, you're this, you should be more, strident, you should be suing the government in court, just walking up and down the street and marching and burning tires, that's for attention. We've passed the stage of attention. You know what I mean? The world acknowledges your rights. Like I'm saying, what you've advocated for is everywhere, but you're not participating in it. I was born an activist, with an activist mind. And so I actually chose to go to an Ivy League college in New York City because it was the furthest one from my home. And my mom wouldn't allow me to go and live on campus. I was pretty bored once I entered, Barnard and Columbia because of what I thought college meant in terms of access to information coming out of high school and, oh, now I'm really gonna have a challenge, for myself. I was shocked to, having to go study some humanities and some Greek things in the past, At that time, the school Columbia is right above Harlem. So my spirit naturally took me into Harlem and the culture of Harlem. So that's how I was exposed to the Rastafari community and culture, was actually out of New York. That's when I got involved with the ganja trade. Was, some of my peers, it was a ganja trade that was giving them independence. I got involved in like, oh, okay, I can go carry something from point A to point B and make some money and get my own place. And, my cousin then, was very active in it and brought me into Jamaica to get some ganja to come back to New York to get my place. But when I came to Jamaica, that's through him I met Ras Daniel Hartman, and I began a relationship with him in the sense of going deep, doing a deep dive into the culture of Rastafari. We were living on Bull Bay by the sea, and with Ras Daniel, I had gotten to a point where, we didn't have mirrors in the house. You receded from Babylon and Babylon ways in a deep, 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 deep dive. And so I smoked a lot on the beach. I smoked until I felt like I was not walking on the ground, like I was floating. And between the motion of the sea and the sky, because the sky was my television and the sea was like my radio, and the experience of the ganja, I really, in retrospect, traveled very, very far, not just in terms of what I'm describing physically, but even in terms of my consciousness of life and what I saw, and thinking of life beyond the flesh. And that's when I had a major disassociation of self mentally. And it was directly related to the smoking of the ganja, because in the smoking I hardly ate, you know. I'd lost a lot of weight, as skinny as I already was. So when I got back home and actually looked in the mirror, I was so shocked at myself, you know, of what had become of me physically, that I lost it. Ended up having to go to a psychiatrist, taking psychiatric drugs, which didn't actually work. They started talk therapy instead. And in doing the talk therapy, he said, oh, but you know everything about your condition. You're in charge of yourself because you're explaining everything like how I'm explaining it to you now. And he said, oh, just go get a book, a journal, and start writing. You just have too much information in your head and you need to let it out. And that actually became my therapy. I think everyone should be aware that when your life is not going correctly, you know what I mean? And you find that you're not addressing certain things, and then it becomes like a crutch. You need to get it under control too. Because you will fall into a pattern that you're not doing nothing, and then it makes you okay with not doing nothing. You know, then you know it's not serving a good purpose. My body told me not to use ganja because I had my last daughter. Her birth was very traumatic to my body, so I lost a lot of blood. I had to, you know, get a transfusion. So my body chemistry changed. I was still smoking, but then it was giving me a bad reaction. So, you know, at a point, my body said no. You know what I mean? So that's why I said you can use common sense and know that this ain't working for you, you know? And you make that decision. It wasn't an easy decision, but common sense. Marijuana in Rastafari culture is to give you the ability to see beyond what the society wants you to accept as the norm, right? So therefore, it is to free you to think. Expanding consciousness is different from getting high. The getting high is like disconnecting it from consciousness, raising of consciousness. Like, so raising means like you're going higher in your consciousness. But this getting high is a different, like you're going on a trip, like you're tripping, you know, like you're losing yourself, like you're not centered. The American or the Northern people, they manipulated the levels of the THC. So if our levels were like 6%, 7%, 8%, their stuff goes up to like 30, 40%. Even though as a culture, we promote the use of ganja, it wasn't no 40% THC ganja. We wanted our culture to stay and be branded with the low THC. But the druggy one is the one that's more commercial, you know, and it pushes the drug culture because people want to get high, get high. You understand when people say, oh, it could be a gateway to other drugs. And I understand it in that manner when I see how it's manipulated and closer to drugs based on that understanding of how it affects your body and depresses you, especially with the liquor, because it's proven that it's not supposed to mix with the liquor. That's all I see happening now is they're promoting the liquor like you don't even know it's liquor. You think it's soda, you know? And it must be affecting the young people. Between that, the grabber, I've never, that's why when they're talking about violence and all of this stuff here, I'm saying like, but you're not equating it with how much more liquor is everywhere, like you've made, what is it? J-Ray and Nephew, paid every shop, like you can't wake up and look and you don't see liquor. It's crazy. I didn't grow up with it like that. I mean, you see bars or whatever, but it wasn't like everywhere is liquor. And then every show is Hennessy, or, you know, like the whole entertainment industry is promoting liquor. Rastafari stood for the rights of ganja and its legalization and its the plant having its rightful place. Yet, in the evolving ganja industry, the Rastafari is not participating in it. Rastafari is as people seems to me very weakened at this time, but the philosophy and the advocacy and the goals of Rastafari are very much on the front burner. I actually had said to the government that the Rastafari should be in charge of the ganja and let the Rastafari values become the dominant protector, because we are against drugs. We don't even take aspirin. You know what I mean? So if you had allowed the Rastafari to lead the Jamaica ganja industry, then we would be protective of people's health and we'd have our own niche. Rastafari still faces discrimination in Jamaica because the prejudices against the Rastafari community and culture and what it stands for is embedded, you know. And so the issues remain the same, even though a lot of what the Rastafari philosophy advocates for is coming to fruition, but it's not coming to fruition through the Rastafari principles. Like, we're not at the table. We're observing the table, reasoning now about the issues that we have chanted for, but we're not at the table. And so, as we could see in the ganja, you know, we're given rights supposedly at the table, but when you go, there's no rights and there's no table. When you look at the ganja, where ganja is grown globally and the amount of consumers, Jamaica could never, not even touch 0.0001% of supplying the world. But what we could supply at 80–90% is your values, how you should use ganja, what it should be for, and keeping it close to nature. We could supply that knowledge, and to be the supplier of that knowledge is a huge industry in and of itself. The value of Jamaican culture and Rastafari lifestyle is a big global industry, bigger than the plant will ever, you know, like if the plant brings in $1, then the merchandising and the lifestyle brings in $10. So your policy would have to be about the plant, but it would also have to be about the brand. And in that respect, we're way behind time in terms of, you know, getting the value out of that, because we have not appreciated how to manage and control our brand.